Hi guys! Welcome back to Kindle's Reading Diaries. Today I'm going to be talking about It Ends With Us. Today I'm going to be talking about It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I read this book for the first time back in like 2021 and I liked it. I think I gave it like a 4 stars, but it wasn't my favorite of hers. I heard that they were going to be making a movie. I was really curious like what they're going to do with it. And then people were fan casting it and like they're putting Dylan O'Brien as Atlas or Logan Lerman as Atlas, and I was like, I love those options. Abby was literally fan casted by everyone, like in the whole fandom, I guess. Everyone like agreed on Abby. Then it came out with them aging up the characters. Blake Lively was casted as Lily. Justin Baldoni, I think is how you say his name, he was casted as Ryle. Brandon Skillenar? I do not know how to say his last name. Brandon, he was casted as Atlas. And then that kind of got backlash, and then photos were released, and then that got backlash. So then at that point, I felt like everyone was giving up on this movie, right? Ever since I watched the trailer in the theaters like last week, they've been pushing it. Every time I get on YouTube, it ends with us. I was at the gym and the TVs, the ads, it ends with us. I'm like, everywhere I go, this trailer is following me. So maybe they're just really trying to market it now that it's about to come out in like a week. I'm not sure, but I don't know if y'all experienced that too, but that was my experience with it. I still am excited, and the weird thing is when I was rereading this after seeing this trailer so many times, and now when I read it, I was picturing like Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni and the Brandon guy as Atlas, and like I do see it. I don't know if it's what I want or not. I do think Justin Baldoni is a good Ryle. Maybe people won't agree with me on that, but I do think that Justin Baldoni like looks like Ryle in my mind. I don't like Blake's hair. Like I was thinking bright orange hair, and hers is like this muted orange that looks like she dyed it, like with box dye. That's what it looks like. So there'll be 3 parts of this video. It'll be me talking about my thoughts on the book, then I'll be talking about my thoughts on the movie, and then I'll talk about was the movie like the book and which one was better. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get started with the video. Start off, I didn't like Ryle from the start, and it's always hard for me to read this book solely for the fact that like they're trying to make us believe like she's falling in love with this other guy and she's not thinking about Atlas, and Atlas is in her past and this new guy's in her future, or like Ryle's in her future. But that's hard when you don't even want them to be together from the start. Like the second I met Ryle kicking a chair, he kicks a chair, blah blah blah, like okay, what? I don't know a single relationship I would be in that if someone kicked a chair before we're even together, that I would be like, oh, I like you. No, control your anger. The first time I read this book, I had the same exact thought though. I'm like, don't like this guy. But this time it definitely was easier, maybe because I know the ending, I'm not sure. Also, from the start of the book, I don't know if you remember this, because I didn't. She goes and performs a eulogy at her dad's funeral. And her mom tells her, oh, just go up and say 5 things that you love about him, or you liked about him. And then she goes up on the stage and she says, the 5 things I like about my dad are... She's up there for like 5 minutes just not saying anything. I thought that part was so funny. Also, I completely forgot it was like an edgy flower shop. She's like, oh, like metal and black and chains, and I'm like, what? I am so curious how they're gonna pull that off in the movie. I don't know who would walk into like an edgy flower shop and be like, oh, this is nice. Maybe this is just me, but me personally would scare me away. I'd like, okay, I'll just go to a different flower shop. The first time Ryle tries to find her, he knocks on like every single door in her apartment. It's like 29 apartment doors he knocks on. And then when he's there, he literally falls on his knees and begs her to have sex with him. What? I read that and I was like, ew, 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 ick, gross. If a man got on his knees and begged me to have sex with him and I only met him like once or twice or something, creep, what? That's another red flag. First red flag, kicks the chair. Second red flag, begs for sex. Like, get it together, sir. Alyssa tries to warn her about Ryle, and I thought, like, he had beaten his other girlfriends, and I thought Alyssa knew about it, right? But it never comes back. At least if it did, I don't remember it coming back. Maybe she's trying to warn her because of what he did to his older brother, like that accident, and he's messed up from it. So I don't know, maybe she was trying to warn her about that, but in my mind it kind of seemed like she was trying to warn her about Ryle, like his other girlfriends or girls he's talked to or whatever. Then a few chapters later, Ryle wants to go out with her. She tells Ryle that she's meeting with her mom later, and he's like, oh, that's fine, like I can come meet your mom. And they're not even dating yet. I don't know if this would be a red flag, maybe like a yellow flag, like, you want to meet my mom so bad? Ask me to be your girlfriend first. You know what I mean? She agrees and tells Alyssa. Alyssa kind of like looks at her sad. Like, so it's like foreshadowing in my mind that Alyssa knows that Ryle is a bad, or not a bad person, a good person who sometimes does bad things. And then when he pushes her, I think it's the second time, and then she like locks him out of the house. She like starts ignoring him, right? He goes and talks to Alyssa, and then Alyssa tells Lily, I think you should hear him out. I mean, in Alyssa's defense, maybe she thinks they just had an argument. So then she takes him back a second time. Also, I completely forgot that they have a last minute wedding. That's another red, maybe yellow flag though. Like, this guy never wanted relationships. Now he wants to not only date you, but marry you? Girl, think about it for a second. Think about it for a second. Is it because she internally knows that if she doesn't go do it now, they would never get married? These are things she should have thought about. At the very end, now we're jumping at the end, she bumps into Atlas, and then he tells her, in the future, if by some miracle you ever find yourself in the position to fall in love again, fall in love with me. That quote gets me every time. I don't care if you don't like the book or not, that is a great quote. Those are my thoughts on the book. I did like this book more. I actually raised my review from a 4 to a 5 star after I reread it, just because I do really like the story. I think it's a great way of talking about like how hard it is to get out of like an abusive relationship. So now Future Kindle will be talking about the movie. Hi guys, so I saw the movie yesterday, and after I left I wrote down some things that I liked and then some things that I didn't like as much. Let's get right into it. So to start off, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I liked. So they took out all the things that I did not like in the book, and it made the movie so much better. Like how I was talking about previously, how Ryle not only went to every one of the apartments, but when he got to the apartment, he got on his knees and begged for her. That's not in the movie. So they have a big night out all together. Ryle, Lily, Marshall, and Alyssa, and they're not dating yet at this time, but after they hang out, Ryle offers to walk her home. So when he's walking her home, he like kind of begs a little bit. Like they agreed on just being friends in the movie, and then he's like, oh, like why don't you kiss me? And she's like, I thought we were friends. And so it kind of plays it off a lot cuter than it had in the book. Like, and it didn't come off as desperate. The second thing that I liked that they changed was, in the book, you don't see them like falling in love that much. It's mostly like it's a bunch of like little things, but it's like nothing crazy that makes the viewer actually like Ryle. But in the movie, they had this big montage of them like doing karaoke and going bowling, and then just all the months that pass and like the little moments, and it's like really cute, and you start being like, oh, their relationship's like kind of cute. I can see why she fell in love with him. They didn't really have that in the book, and I love that they added that to the movie. It gave more perspective to the viewer of why it was so hard for Lily to leave, because they had all of these great moments together. Also, earlier I was like getting super upset about how Ryle is so desperate to meet her mother even though they aren't even dating. Like, you should ask her out then. But in the movie, when her mom is in town to take Lily out to dinner, Ryle asked to go, but they've already been dating for like, I think months by that point. So it was better since they were dating. Like, of course your boyfriend wants to meet your mother, not this random guy that you're not even dating. You know what I mean? One of the biggest parts in the book that made me not like Alyssa as much was that she asked Lily to hear Ryle out after their argument. In the movie, they completely took this part out, which was super nice. It made you like Alyssa more, since she didn't say it. Also, in the movie, Alyssa seemed way more oblivious to Ryle. Like, it didn't seem like she knew that Ryle was abusive. The only thing that she knew about Ryle was that he was like a playboy and didn't want to be in a long-term relationship. I don't know if people liked this in the book or not, but they took out Alyssa and Marshall naming their kid Riley, like after Ryle. They didn't say what the name of the baby was. Like, I don't remember them saying what the name of the baby was, but it's not Riley, or that we know of. So in the book, I think they named her Riley to give perspective that Ryle still is kind of a good person, even though he does bad things to Lily. I think that Justin Baldoni, the director, and Christy Hall, the screenwriter, didn't include that in the movie because I don't think they wanted to take away from the story. After seeing that Jenny Slate was casted for Alyssa, I did not think I was gonna like her. In the book, I can picture her a little differently, and she's funny in the book, but Jenny Slate, to me, has always been known as like a comedy actress, like a comedian. So I was like, I don't think she'll be able to pull off like the seriousness of it. Not only did she make Alyssa funnier, but she was one of the best parts of the entire movie. Like, all the serious parts she pulled off like even more than I expected. And now, after watching it, I can't imagine Alyssa being anyone else. Also, I love how similar that Justin Baldoni and Jenny Slate look. Like, in the book, they mentioned that they kind of look alike, and in the movie they really do, and they they really do look alike. So great casting. Whoever casted this movie, after watching it, I was obsessed. Another great character casting was Atlas. The scene in the book where Atlas notices that Lily has a bruise on her face and Ryle's hand is wrapped up and he attacks Ryle. Brandon, the guy who played Atlas, pulled this off so well. Like, after when that scene occurred, I was like, okay, I see it. I see why they chose him to play Atlas, because he did it perfectly. Like, I was like, oh, in the movie theater, so good. I'm still talking about what I like, but in the beginning of the movie, when they're on the rooftop and they're talking, Ryle and Lily are talking. Their chemistry at the start, I don't know if it was intentional or if it was just actors like kind of trying to warm up to one another, but I hated their chemistry at the start. I was like, there's nothing there. They're giving us nothing, not even crumbs. But as the movie went on, especially like the montage scenes when you see them falling in love, their chemistry is so there and you can like feel it, and I really do think they picked a great Lily and Ryle. A little bit of a different subject, but the flower shop, I told you guys, I was so worried about it. Like, how are they gonna pull off this grungy looking flower shop? It's not a grungy looking flower shop. It definitely doesn't look like a normal flower shop. It looks more like an older looking antique-y flower shop. Like, there's flowers everywhere, but it definitely wasn't like black and chains and boots and all that stuff. So I applaud whoever made that change because I was really worried about it. They changed the proposal in the movie. So in the book, Alyssa and Lily are talking to one another in her room, and I think like Alyssa asked like, oh, would you marry him? And she was like, I would marry him tonight if I could. And then Ryle shows up in the doorway and is like, oh, like, let's get married then, right? But in the movie, Alyssa has her baby and they're looking at the baby, and he's talking about like, oh, I would love to have babies with you one day and even marry you. And then she's like, are you proposing to me? It was like kind of like that. And it was just like a really cute moment. And it felt like it had more of a purpose though. Like, he's looking at the baby and he's looking at her and he can finally envision that. Not just him lurking in the hallway like, okay, let's get married. But like, it felt more meaningful. I don't know. I liked it a lot more though. I loved young Lily and young Atlas. You could really sense their chemistry like right off the bat, like perfectly casted, every single one. And Marshall, I didn't envision that to be Marshall in my head, but I thought the actor pulled him off really well. Whoever casted this movie, seriously amazing. Loved it. Music, amazing. Music, amazing. Love that they put Taylor Swift in it. Can't have like a movie like this without Taylor Swift. The last thing I want to say is I don't remember crying while reading the book, but when I was watching the movie, I cried at 2 points. So it was when Alyssa was like, as a sister, I want you to be with him, but as a friend, I will never forgive you if you get back together with him. Jenny Slate did so good. That line, oh my god, I literally started crying. I was like, and that was the first time I cried in the whole movie. The second time was when Ryle was looking at the baby and she tells him like, oh, I'm going to name I want to name this baby Emerson, like after your brother. And he like cries and said, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. And like, I cried then, and then I cried again when she's like, I want a divorce. And then she tells him why and all that. But oh, so good. I actually really liked this movie more than I thought I was going to. Now, I'm going to get into the things I didn't like, but keep in mind, they're just little nitpicky things. Overall, this movie was so good, and I don't want you to take the things I didn't like as a reason to not see it. I think everyone should see it. So, things that I didn't like, or that were like different and I didn't like. The reason why I didn't think I liked the chemistry at the start, or didn't feel it, was because the first like 10-20 minutes of the movie was super rushed. But I think it was because they wanted to give more time to the later scenes and make them feel more powerful, so they cut more time from the beginning. But yeah, it was super rushed to me. Young Lily isn't shy in the movie. To me, I didn't think she was shy at all. And when you're reading her diary entries in the book, I got this feeling of like innocence and shyness, and she's kind of like looking at him through the window and crushing. But in the movie, she seems very confident around him. She still does write the diary entries, but she seems very confident. It's a change. It's not one I really liked, but it didn't change the story that much. It's just something I noticed, and I would have preferred her to be a little more shy, since it is the first guy she's ever like really liked like that. Also, she doesn't look 15. So I'm wondering if they aged up her character too. I'm not sure, but just a thought. Speaking of that, the journals weren't included. The movie still pulled it off without including the journals, but in my opinion, in the book, they included the journal entries to show how she was still like hung up on Atlas, and to show how she will never really get over her first love. I don't know, that's how I interpreted it. Maybe it's different. It wasn't a big deal, but I felt like it could have been a little bit better if they had included that in the movie. At the end of the movie, they ask her if she wants to know the gender before the baby comes, and she says yes. Well, and while maybe to most people, or people who've never read the books, that isn't that big of a deal, but to me, it was like she was juggling whether she wanted to be with Ryle still or if she wanted to be a single mother, and she was still super confused. Like, a part of her was still considering taking him back, but it isn't until she has the baby and she sees it's a girl and then it hits her like, oh, I can never take him back. I can never take him back. Like, if this was my daughter, I would tell her to never take him back, and I need to be that example. Like, it just hits you more. Like, it didn't have that full force effect that it had in the book. At the end, when she's pregnant, Ryle comes and knocks on the door, and she opens it and she lets him in, no problem. He builds the crib, and then she offers for him to touch the baby, and there's no like tension to me. There was no tension to me, at least. And in the book, she's not comfortable seeing him until he shows up with Marshall. While this isn't a big part of the movie and it doesn't take away from the movie, I wish they would have communicated more that, you know, she was scared to see him. It shows that she ignores him, but it doesn't show that she's scared to see him again, you know? The last time he heard her, it was like this terrible incident, and it was really scary. So having her still be shaken up makes sense, but in the movie I was just like, why are you letting him in your house when you're by yourself? You know, last time he touched you, it was very traumatic, and you're offering him for him to touch you again. I don't know, just a little nitpicky. They didn't include how Alyssa was struggling to conceive. Like, when she's trying to find a job, she doesn't need to work. So when she's looking for a job and goes to Lily's flower shop, she's looking for a job to take her mind off that she can't have a baby. And they took that out of the movie completely. And so when you figure out that Alyssa's pregnant, they all cheer, and it's still very exciting, but it's not like, oh my gosh, like, she never thought she could have a baby and now she can. Like, it took a little bit of the magnitude away from that event. And there's a lot of people in the world who struggle with conceiving, and so I did think it'd be nice to have that representation in the movie. It would have just been something very small. You could just easily have added in. There's like a few extra lines, but I don't know. I still think it was still a great movie without it. I still wish they would have like kept it in or added it in. The last few things I'm going to include are just very small nitpicky things. Lily's hair sometimes looked okay, sometimes didn't. Sometimes looked natural, sometimes looked like a thing of box dye. Also, same thing with the hair. Her wardrobe sometimes had really good moments. Other times, it was atrocious. They were trying to show like, oh, she has similar style from when she was growing up, but it's a little different. And I would have loved to see that. I would have loved them to take her childhood wardrobe and elevated it. Except sometimes it wasn't elevated. So this movie overall, I loved. I really thought they took this book and completely elevated it. There were little things, obviously I talked about them, that I didn't like as much, but overall, they really brought this book to life and made it its own in a way. I really connected with all the characters, and it's definitely a movie I would rewatch. So if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend you go and see it. My overall opinion of the movie though is that it was just as good as the book, maybe even better. I know some of you guys might disagree with it, but it was so good. I am definitely going to rewatch it. So thank you guys for watching today. Please leave a comment down below of your thoughts about the movie, and like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.